They say hindsight's 20/20. Well, I've learned a few things about E85. Maybe some things that you guys are going to want to take into consideration if you're thinking about doing it, which I highly recommend that you do. I don't care about any of the rumors or anything that you hear. You do get worse gas mileage. I ran another test, but I'll get to that later. 30% seems to be about the number that hangs around. So you're going to get about 30% worse gas mileage. It takes about 30% more volume to burn. I would just assume 30% is going to be about the rule. It's still, the cost is way less than 30%. The octane rating on it, I think, is like, it depends on the pump you go. 101 to 105 is what I'm reading. This gas is very oxygenated. It's very, very stable. Now, this stuff can gunk up your engine, and I was kind of doing some research as far as to why. I think you guys know the routine of how I do things. I'll add this to the stream. I was kind of wondering, does E85 go bad? It does, and it's not like gasoline, where it is, gasoline's actually quite different than E85. This stuff is what they call hygroscopic. I'm sorry, I want to say hydro with a D, but it's spelled with a D, or G, I'm sorry. God, it says E85 is hygroscopic. There you go. The ethanol in E85 can absorb moisture from the air. When that happens, moisture affects the fuel's ability to power your engine. It's kind of like brake fluid. It is very hygroscopic, where it absorbs moisture. Once it wicks up enough moisture, that's when it goes bad. I mean, I'll leave a link to this article and you can read it yourself, but it pretty much boils down to how long the fuel's been exposed to the very humid or the moisture in the air. If you go on and read the article, it does say that E85, if your fuel system is sealed, it lasts a heck of a lot longer. How to know if it's gone bad? Reduce mileage. I mean, come on. I mean, you're already staring down about 20-30% as it is. Stalling, running rough, difficulty starting up, poor acceleration, because you're going to be atomizing a liquid into the combustion chamber, which is not going to ignite. Let me get back here. As far as it wicking up water, this is going to be your enemy as far as E85 goes. And then it turns out that you need to be protecting your engine's oil. So now for naturally aspirated, or like maybe 11.5 to 1 compression and down, really not going to have to worry about E85 getting into the engine oil, because it seems like once you have boost, a lot of boost or high compression, it seems to be the point where you have seepage, which gets by some of the piston rings. You know, when it's really trying to crunch it down real fast, it's when you get blow by. There's also a couple links to a couple videos that I watched are really good watches. They're absolutely worth the time. So I'll leave a couple links below. Also, I found this product on Amazon, and I'll show you here in just a little bit, but it turns out E85 and water, once it's mixed into something, turns out it's a little bit harder to get out. So you have to find not the boiling point, but the evaporation point. I'll add this back in here and you guys can see. Now this is just me doing my own research and showing you guys how I got from A to B on that. So if you look down here, there's a bunch of people that did some researches, but it says if you boil water, the water ethanol content, it seems to be, and this is 78 degrees Celsius, which translate to about 150 some degrees Fahrenheit. And I did some digging on Amazon, and I will leave a link below. Yes, I get a little bit of profit off of it, but I'm not sure on the quality, because there are different manufacturers for these oil pan heaters, and this is what you get. The oil pan heaters, and it turns out that these things, I found a cost-effective solution. I was checking around, I saw, dude, these things are going for like $300. Like, no. So, I mean, there's only certain parameters as to how much of a build quality you need. Other than that, you're really wasting your money. I'm not made of money, and I'm assuming you guys aren't either. Maybe some of you are. Good for you. I hope you are. I'm happy for you. But for those of us that aren't, I did some research. These have a self-sticking 3M VHB. So the VHB actually, I'll show you, stands for very high bond. Very high bond, and I'll just read it. VHB stands for very high bond, and the tape absolutely lives up to its name. I hope so. Designed for high strength and long-lasting bonding applications, 3M VHB is a family of double-sided tapes that can often replace rivets, screws, spots, maybe spot welds, or other mechanical fasteners that can be used to join a wide variety of materials. So that's good. That's exactly what you want. As you can see, this whole thing is covered with the VHB. If this gets contaminated, anything that might splash up, or if you don't absolutely get the oil pan clean, I would say something along the lines of like a 80 to 120 grit sand scratch, maybe a light coat of epoxy, some kind of epoxy, because I think that's going to be probably the most weatherproof. You could use urethane, but the biggest differences between urethane and epoxies are urethane's flexible, epoxy's not. That oil pan is not going to be. So when this thing starts expanding and contracting, when it gets cold, hot, you're going to need that that scratch on the oil pan. So that's where I'm saying the 80 to 120 sand scratch tooth. Like I said, these things has an auto shut off temperature at, I think it was 194 degrees. So if you leave this plugged in all the time, especially during winter, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but you can read, here, I'll just read it to you, that this thing is rated up to 300 volts and 105 degrees Celsius. I'll put that up here. So basically it's telling you that this thing's going to be very, very safe. The only thing I don't like about it is it does not have a ground. I mean, the worst case scenario is this thing is just gonna stop working and it's not gonna heat your oil pan. So if you leave this thing on your oil pan to bake, it will evaporate all the water. And if you do have E85 in the oil, and think about it, you don't want any fuel, which is a solvent, which will wash away oil, to be getting in the cylinder walls, where that could cause a serious problem, especially with the LT engines, the Gen 5 LT platform. These things have oil squirters on the bottom side of the pistons to try to make sure that everything's lubricated. You need to make sure that that's pure oil. So not only did I switch to changing my oil to every 2,000 miles with a full synthetic, but I'm going to be putting this heater on the bottom of the oil pan. Now, as far as the water goes, water in the engine oil, with E85 wicking up a lot of water and, just taking that through the entire system in the engine. Now, those of you that run E85, you'll know. Have you ever seen a lot of water coming out of your exhaust pipe or any of the joints in the exhaust where there's a leak? You see water dripping out constantly. That's why. I have a tester for E85. I'll also leave a link to that below, but test your E85. Try to find out who is selling the most of it in your town. The quality, as far as like the content rating for your tune. You just don't want the stuff that's been sitting in the tank for underground for a long time. It's generally the same price and you're getting bad gas. I'm also gonna say that since I did the 285 to 1 ELSD conversion in my car, I reran another route now that I have the cruise control fixed. So we took a test run. I actually went the other way and I decided to go ahead and venture out into Nebraska running on 1 tank of fuel. I'll leave you out with that, guys, but please like the video, subscribe on your way out. Take care. I'll see you guys on the next video. If you have any questions, drop them below. I'll do my best to answer. You guys take care. See ya. Anyways, I just had a little time on my hands and I'm like, hey, let's just fill up with some E85 and let's hit the road. So typically what I do, there's just more going on. I live pretty much in the middle of Iowa, so I always head towards like Chicago. Never really go up towards Minneapolis or whatever, but it's either Chicago or Missouri. So I usually either go, east, or I will go south. So today I'm like, hey, let's just go west. So I got to thinking, what really is there out there that's west? Kind of wanted to go to to Porsche of Omaha. I've always kind of wanted to stop down here and check them out. So thought I would just hit the road, filled up with some E85. I filled up in the exact location since I'm going to do a comparison of, you know, pretty much like what we did last time. I can't remember. What did we get? Like 14.5 miles per gallon. We ended up 241 miles, 241.2. So we're going to take 241.2 divided by, we got 16.6 gallons equals 14.5 miles to the gallon. So since I got HP tuners and we got the cruise control fixed, I didn't want to do this test until I got the cruise control fixed, because I kind of figured it was really not comparable, because the computer can modulate the throttle in such fine increments that it's really not fair if you're sitting there hitting the gas, off the gas, on the gas, off the gas. We got it fixed. I had a little bit of time. I remember like when we did the last test, it was a little bit cooler out. So, I mean, the results aren't gonna get skewed that much, but yeah, I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna check out this Porsche dealership. Rumor is there might be a Porsche dealership coming to Des Moines, or West Des Moines. It's kind of a, you know, it's a suburb, one suburb away from where I'm at. Thankfully, you don't have to sit through this glorious drive. It's pretty uneventful. Just a bunch of windmills. I haven't made this drive in a long time. Get this rolled up here so you guys can hear me. We're on our way home. It looks like the computer now that I readjusted everything says it's reading about 19.2. So if that's accurate, that's almost 5 miles to the gallon we gained on the highway. So for those of you who haven't been down here, Omaha is actually pretty cool. It's the Henry Dooley Zoo. Isn't that the biggest zoo or some shit? I can't remember. But yeah, it's a pretty cool place. I didn't make it down here in time to like check any cars out or anything, but that's not what today's video was about. It was just a test. Just, you know, getting the MPG reading now that everything is back fixed, back to kosher. So I'll see you guys back at home. All right, so we pulled over here. We finally stopped and we got gas. As you can see, we got 13.6 gallons of E85. Still only 35 bucks. That's pretty good. So if you look here, we did 244. So let's do the math here real quick. 244.5, the miles divided by 13.6, the gallons, 18 miles to the gallon. For 880 horsepower, that's pretty freaking good. I did the same speed, about the same distance. Yeah, that's insane. 18 miles to the gallon, that's pretty good. So, ELSD swap, was it worth it? Yes. Gained MPGs, lost no performance as far as 60 to 130 times, and we're gonna gain in the future, so never see that again. 320 miles in a DL1.